Welcome to the Middleware Tech YouTube channel. In this series, you'll learn about JAXB Runtime. Code examples used in the videos will be available on GitHub. Let's get started.
Java API for XML binding, that is JAXB. So this is see, we have different binding is there. So why this one is used? Purpose of this annotation is to mapping or to create a binding between XML to Java and Java to XML. Create a binding between XML to Java and Java to XML. This JAXB annotation come into picture. Fine. So if there is no JAXB, who was there earlier? Earlier, we have multiple parsers. If you remember, we have JAXB API. Java API for XML processing, JAXB API. So JAXB API is also used to convert XML to Java and Java to XML. And JAXB API will use two formats. One is called SAX parser. Another was DOM parser. Was using these two parsers, SAX parser and DOM parser, to read an XML and convert into a Java. Now I'm talking about JAXB API or JAXB annotation. I'm talking about JAXB API. Now, what is the difference between this API and these APIs? These APIs that we have talked about earlier, they are very specific to low-level communication. Whereas JAXB API support XML to Java mapping with the help of some of the annotation called JAXB annotation. JAXB annotation. So if you remember, we talked about when this JAXB annotation come into picture. We have given one example when this JAXB annotation come into picture. JAXB annotation come into picture when in your web service internal architecture talked about last day. If you remember, this is my consumer or client. Consumer or client, what is doing? He is sending a request. When he is sending a request, that request is going as a SOAP request. SOAP request is going as a SOAP request to whom? The provider. That request is going as a SOAP request to the provider. Now, from the consumer, you're calling a stub. What you are doing? Assume in the provider, we have one of the function called EMI calculation. EMI calculation, that is taking some parameter like principal, rate of interest, and time. This is my method that is available in the server side. What I am doing in the consumer side? In the consumer side, using an stub, you are calling stub dot EMI calculation. One method you're calling in the consumer side. The consumer side, you're calling one method stub dot EMI calculation. So when you're calling this method, you're calling a Java code. Then what will happen? The request convert as an XML. So this is your Java, and this is your XML. SOAP request is an XML. So here Java to XML, automatic conversion is done. This is Java and this is an XML, right? Now when the SOAP request is coming to the provider side, then XML to Java, automatic conversion is done. Who is doing this conversion? Implicitly, that conversion is done with the help of JAXB API. How JAXB API is doing this conversion? With the help of some JAXB annotation. Same like that, when the response is coming from provider to the consumer. Provider, what response is coming the output? Who is sending the output? A skeleton combine the output with your Java object and send it as a SOAP response. So it is sending as a SOAP response. So it is coming as a SOAP response. Now the SOAP response, what is going to happen? Java to XML conversion is done, right? And the SOAP response is coming to the consumer, then XML to Java conversion is done. So this Java to XML and XML to Java conversion being implemented automatically and handled by with the help of JAXB API. JAXB API supports some of the annotations called JAXB annotations. That is doing this task, right? JAXB API is handling some of the annotations called JAXB annotations that is doing this task. Now we talked about something yesterday also about JAXB. Yes, we talked about this mapping, if you remember. Control C, last day. So here, what we talked about here, Control V. So whatever this is the website internal architecture you're talking about, how JAXB API come into picture. Right now we are talking about, I'm saying that this is done by JAXB annotation. So what JAXB annotation is doing? These are some of the examples of JAXB annotation. @XML root element, @XML type, @XML element. These are some of the examples of JAXB annotations. So they are doing the conversions, Java to XML and XML to Java. Inside your JAXB API or inside your JAXB runtime or API, whatever you say, we have these JAXB annotations. So I'm saying that JAXB API is doing the conversion. Fine. Who is there in the JAXB API to do the conversions? These JAXB annotations. JAXB annotations is doing the conversion from XML to Java and Java to XML. Right? Now we have to know how JAXB API is doing these conversions. We have to know with a particular example, then only it will come. Right? How JAXB annotations. So if you remember last day talked about, okay, we are creating client-side artifact, server-side artifact, and those client-side artifact and server-side artifact related classes contain the JAXB annotations, right? But we should see one example, see how JAXB annotation is used to convert Java to XML, XML to Java. We can see, we can do some examples where we can customize JAXB annotations. Then only things will become. So what is our priority? Our requirement is to understand how JAXB annotation is working. Theoretically is okay, but we want to see using an example how JAXB annotation is working. I have told you now the thing is, what is the purpose of this annotation? What is the purpose of this annotation? So we should know using an example, then it will be clear how JAXB annotation actually work, right? Okay, so let's understand some more input about JAXB annotation using some slide. Let's understand some more input about JAXB annotation using some slide. So let's go to our, is it this? Okay, XML parsing using JAXB. Okay. Okay, let's understand some more input about JAXB annotations. We'll get some input here, and after that we'll try to execute one lab. Now you'll find here lots of things is written, objectives, lots of things is given. Okay, fine, let's come one by one. So if you see this example, just now I told you that is given here, that if I want to do some processing from Java to XML, we have some of the API already, like JAXB. Earlier we have used JAXB API, Java API for XML processing. So that JAXB API is divided into two parts. One is SAX, another is DOM. So SAX parser and DOM parser is nothing but some program, how they are going to parse the XML file, how going to read the XML file, right? So based on that, two parser was there. SAX parser, it's an event-based parser framework. Developers create event handler that fire when reading a document. Similarly, you have DOM parser, an object model. An XML document is converted into a tree of objects comprised of types such as these elements. Fine. So the SAX, we are not talking about SAX and DOM. It was earlier. Now, when it came into web service, we are going to use JAXB, Java architecture for XML binding. Sometimes we use a term called Java API for XML binding. So it binds an XML document with tree of objects similar to DOM. Unlike DOM, the objects types are custom types. So let's see some more input about JAXB. I already told you the JAXB main purpose is XML to Java, Java to XML binding. It allows the reading, so as whatever I told you, those things is given with the help of annotations. They are doing this parsing, and this parsing come into picture in all the web service that we used with the help of JAX WS API specifications, JAX RS API specifications, right? Implementation provider. Now let's understand one by one these annotations. I'm saying that JAXB API is providing the conversion between Java to XML. Fine. How JAXB API is providing the conversion between Java to XML with the help of JAXB annotations. So one of the annotations is XML root element. So this XML root element, this is one of the JAXB annotations. What it is doing, it is converting XML to Java. So if I use this annotation in the class level, if I use this annotation in the class level, then I can create Java to XML. If I use this annotation in the class level, then I can convert this Java as an XML. So inside my class, what is the class name? Person. I'm saying the annotation name is @XML root element. So if I use @XML root element for a particular class, then that class name will be root element in your XML file. So the things is like this. If I use @XML root element for a class, then that class name will be root element inside your XML file. Next, I've used some instance variable and getters and setters. If you have instance variable and getters and setters, so that instance variable will be the child element for the version, right? So this is how the mapping is done. And lots of things is there. I'm just given one example here, right? Okay. So reading XML with JAXB, right? So the thing what I want to say is that there is multiple inbuilt classes is there in JAXB. Now programmatically, if I want to read an XML file, then reading XML is accomplished by using JAXB context, one or more JAXB annotated classes. So using this class, I create an object, and then I'm using input stream, new file input stream, then %p equal to universal in, system.out name equal to this. Fine. So what it is doing, it is reading an XML document and writing into Java. Reading an XML document and writing into Java. So if I want programmatically, I want to read an XML document, write in inside a Java with the help of JAXB. Again, I'm saying programmatically, I want to read an XML document and write inside Java with the help of JAXB. right? Then I should create an object of JAXB context JC equal to JAXB context dot new instance, and then I have to create an object of input stream, and it will read the XML file and write it into Java, right? Okay. Similarly, what I want to writing an XML is accomplished by using JAXB context, one or more JAXB annotated class as a Marceller. So if I want to write an XML using JAXB, right? So if I want to write an XML using JAXB, so this is see, in the last example, what I'm doing, reading an XML, and writing into Java. And what I'm doing in this example, taking a Java object, and reading into XML, writing as an XML. Last example, taking an XML, writing as a Java, taking an XML, writing as a Java. This is next example, taking Java object, writing as an XML, taking Java object, writing as an XML. So what happened? Java to XML and XML to Java, we can do the conversion with the help of these JAXB classes called JAXB context. I'm not going to create those programs. You can understand how this is actually being done, right? So you can see the JAXB provided some of the class like JAXB context. And if you need some more details, you can go to the JAXB API specifications and you get the details how JAXB is using Java to XML and XML to Java conversions, right? Now here lots of other things is also there. Okay, I'll come into this. Before going into these core technical parts, what I'll do is that let me understand this JAXB using how JAXB using a lab. Let's understand the concept of JAXB using a lab. And before going to core technicalities, let's understand JAXB. Let's understand the concept of JAXB using a lab, right? So what lab we'll do to understand JAXB? We'll do one crude operation using web service. So we'll try